All right, good morning, everybody. We're at the top of the hour here, according to my watch, so we'll go ahead and get started, and if anybody else joins in, we'll just let them join in progress. Want to welcome you to the second and final of our Severe Forecast Challenge webinars, just kind of giving you a little bit of background and everything, and as we get ready to start. So, if I can get control here. So just some of the main details. The challenge is going to run 8 weeks this year, from May 5th through June 29th. We're delayed a little bit because of the shutdown that pushed some of our RAC courses back, and we can't start the forecast challenge until we get walk going. And so that's why we're starting a little bit later this year and running a little bit shorter. A week will run from Sunday to Saturday. Forecasts are always going to be due by 16Z the day you're forecasting for. And they're always going to be valid for severe weather that occurs from 19Z on the day of the forecast through 11:59Z the next day. We'll verify those using SPC LSRs, mainly, and we'll talk about this later a little bit too, probably. But that's mainly because we have to use something to verify, and that's just the easiest way for us to verify forecasts. You need to include a valid discussion, and we'll talk a little bit about more of that also. And then your top 2 scores for each week will be counted for at least 6 of the 8 weeks. So if you forecast for 7 weeks, we'll drop your 2 lowest counting scores, and if you forecast for 8 weeks, we'll drop your 4 lowest counting scores, and that's for an individual. Team scoring is a little bit different. What we do is we take the top 6 scores from forecasters from your office, and we take no more than 2 scores from the same forecaster. So that's why we have the requirement that you need at least 3 forecasters from any office to have an office team. If you have more than that, we might take 1 score from 6 different forecasters. It just depends on how high the scores are. And we'll count the 6 highest weekly scores for each team and drop the 2 lowest scores. If you've participated in the past, that's different from years past. Instead of counting all 8 weeks, what we're going to do is try and even the playing field out a little bit, and we'll drop the 2 lowest weekly scores for the office. So if you're new to this whole challenge is maybe new to you. But if you've participated in the past, just a couple of things that are new this year I just kind of wanted to highlight. We have a new website with hopefully improved usability. There also should be a little bit easier to use on the phone, mobile version. I can't guarantee it will, and we don't support mobile officially, but it may be easier to use this year. The significant win bonus is increased from 50 to 75 points, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And also, we're going to do a postseason NCAA-style tournament, and we'll talk about that also. But those are really the 3 main new things for this year. So the scoring. How the scoring works is points are awarded based on the distance from the forecast point to the nearest LSR. You can forecast none if you believe no severe weather will occur anywhere in the CONUS on a given day. But again, the only way that will verify is if no severe weather occurs anywhere in the CONUS. And you would get 50 points for that. And again, all scoring is based on LSRs submitted to SPC. And we will rescore out for late reports and damage surveys and that kind of thing. So what we get is we start with a distance score, which is just 100 minus the distance to the closest report of any severe weather, to your point. And then you can earn additional points for successful forecasts for severe wind or hail, if that verifies based on where you are. So you get 50 points if it's between 0 and 25 miles from your point, and that's the initial circle that you see when you click on that, and Matt will talk about that in a little bit. 40 points if it's the closest report to your point from 25 to 50 miles, 20 points if it's 50 to 75, and 10 if it's 75 to 100. So again, you have a 25-mile safe zone where it doesn't matter what kind of reports come within that circle, as long as one of those matches the type you're forecasting for, you'll get that 50 points. If you forecast hail and there are no hail reports within 25 miles of that point, then we kind of expand out if there are no other severe reports. So if you forecast hail and there's a wind report within 25 miles but no hail reports, you wouldn't get any of the extra points. You can also get an additional 50-point bonus if significant hail occurs anywhere within 25 miles of your forecast point, and 75 points if wind occurs within 25 miles of that point if you forecast for wind. And again, note that has changed from last year. It used to be 50 for both. Significant wind is a little harder to get, just to get those measured significant wind gusts, and so we've increased that point total just a little bit. For tornadoes, the scoring is about the same. You start off with 100 minus the distance to closest report, but the point totals are a little higher because it's a little harder to get tornadoes to verify. So you get a little bit of a wider radius. You get a 35-mile radius, where if you get a tornado anywhere within that radius, you would get the 100 bonus points. If it's the closest report, and there are no reports within 35 miles, it would be 60 points for 35 to 50, and then 40 and 20 going on out from there. And again, once you get outside of that 35-mile safe zone, for you to get those bonus points, that tornado report has to be the closest report to your point. And then you can get an additional 50-point bonus if a significant tornado occurs anywhere within 35 miles of that forecast point. There's also a little bit of time bonus. If your forecast is issued between 1 and 10Z, you have the opportunity to receive a 15-point bonus. Note it's only within that time frame. So if you forecast at 20Z for the next day, you don't get that bonus. If you forecast at 11Z, you don't get that bonus. And really the reason it's there is kind of to help our folks on the West Coast. Their schedules are a little different, and so it kind of helps them since they're at a little bit of a disadvantage. So therefore, your total score is comprised of the distance score plus any additional points, plus the bonus points, and the time bonus. So discussions. So what we're looking for in the discussion is it needs to be more than just 1 or 2 words. So instead of just putting storms or wedges or something in that, we really want to see that you thought it out at least a little bit. And we know sometimes you guys are rushed for time, so it doesn't have to be a long paragraph. There's an example here. I'm not going to read through it. But just a little bit of something about why you chose that point. You know, the STP is 6 with no sin and CAPE of 3,000 in this area. Just something that kind of lets us know that you did a little bit more than just looked at the SPC convective outlook for the day and threw a dart right in the center of that 20% TOR risk. I mentioned the postseason tournament, so this is new this year. This is independent of the regular season, so this will happen after June 29th. It's going to start July 7th. What we'll do is we'll take the top 24 highest scores overall and the 8 highest non-qualifying weekly winners, which are the highest weekly scores that didn't already qualify, and of course people that choose to participate. We'll then seed them NCAA bracket style based on their highest weekly score. Each forecaster will get to make 1 forecast during the round, which will consist of 3 days. The highest scoring forecast will advance to the next round. And we'll have a 1-day break between rounds just to wait for any late reports. If we're waiting for a storm survey, we may make that a little bit longer, and we would announce that, but I don't anticipate that at that time. And really, that's because if we waited the full week that we would normally do, this tournament would run until October, and we just can't do that. So that's the reason behind that. Note that if you make a forecast for all 3 of those days, we're only going to take the first forecast you issue at that point. We'll do a team tournament as well, so we'll take the top 32 highest total scoring office scores. We'll seed them based on their highest weekly score and bracket that appropriately. It'll start at the same time. Each forecaster per team can, again, make 1 forecast. You have to have at least 3 forecasters to issue a forecast during the round, and we'll take the top 3 forecaster scores and total them for the team score. So, now the good stuff. There is the opportunity to earn some prizes. The first place, the highest score for each week, will receive one of our Drag Me to Storm t-shirts. The top 3 finishers overall will receive a plaque, as well as the top 3 offices. And there's going to be more than 10 offices, so that's for sure going to happen. And then the tournament, they'll take the final 4 individual forecasters and offices, and we'll get them a little bit of a prize, and then the winners will also get an individual and team plaque. Now, if any of you are enrolled in Walk Severe, the criteria is a little bit different, and you'll hear about this in your orientation session. But if you're enrolled in Walk Severe, as part of the course, you're required to participate for 3 of the 8 weeks. If you participate for 6 of the 8 weeks, you automatically get a shirt, irregardless of where you finish. And we'll talk about that in the orientation sessions that you'll hear about later on. And here's what the shirts have looked like in the past. Last year we let the winning office determine the shirt color. We may do that this year. That hasn't been decided for sure yet, but that might be the case. Last year the shirts were green. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to our web guru, Matt Sinkowitz, who's going to kind of walk us through the new website and some of the new things we've added this year. So Matt, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay.
and you should have control.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is the homepage of the website. It's somewhere where we may occasionally post updates, such as information about the webinar, which we are currently on right now. Let's go over to the Submit a Forecast page, which hopefully some of you are familiar with by now. First step is selecting your username from the very long drop-down. When you do so, please make sure that you are selecting your username and not an adjacent similar username. Upon selection, your office will autofill in the box to the right. Below that, you will select a date. There are no dates available right now because the configuration of the challenges is for the beta testing week that we ran last week. So there are no available forecast dates currently, but later this afternoon we will set everything up for the actual forecast challenge beginning over the weekend, and at that point the next up to the next 7 available forecast dates will be visible within this drop-down. So after selecting your date that you're forecasting for, next select your hazard, tornado, hail, wind, or none. You will see that upon selection of your hazard, the range rings on the forecast point on the map below change corresponding to the hazard type and the radius associated with that hazard. Upon clicking and dragging around the forecast point, the latitude and longitude of your forecast changes. You can also use the number input boxes themselves to change the values, and the forecast point will change accordingly. Below that is the forecast discussion, where you will write your discussion, as Chris has already previously mentioned. And if you have selected if you are signed up for the Walk Severe course, this checkbox will enable upon selection of your username, allowing you to request a review of your forecast discussion. I believe Walk Severe enrollees will learn more about this in the orientation meetings this week. After that, submit your forecast, and you should receive a message saying from a Google form saying that your forecast has been received. So on the results page is where you will be able to view your forecast along with the forecast of every other participant. You will be able to view it by date, by individual user, and by team. So this is all the forecasts for the beta testing week last Saturday, April 27th. You can see the SPC 13Z outlooks are on there that you can toggle on and off. The reports are on there that you can toggle on and off. And the forecasts are on there that you can toggle on and off. You can also choose to highlight range rings for SIG reports. This shows the radii in which forecasts would receive reports for receive the SIG bonus. You can also just highlight the 100-mile radius around each point. So this will basically show that if your forecast falls within the shaded area, your forecast received points. There's also individual range rings for tornado, hail, and wind reports. Below that is a table listing all of the forecasts for a given day or user or team, whatever you have chosen to select. You can see the various information laid out here, and you can also see there's a little magnifying glass symbol all the way to the right. If you click on that for a forecast, it will take you to a page displaying information about that forecast, specifically the forecast discussion. This is a model, so it's just a link to an image. A scoring breakdown showing basically how we arrived at your score, and another map showing your forecast point with the various range rings associated with it, all the reports and the outlooks as well. Going back, you can also click on individual reports to receive information about them, or individual forecasts to receive the scoring breakdown, discussion, and other information as well. After that are the standings. This is pretty self-explanatory. It defaults to individual overall standings, so you can see the ranking overall of everybody signed up for the challenge. You can also select individual weeks. There's only 1 week available here because, again, we were doing a 1-week test week. You can look at the team standings, just the model standings, and if you are a walk enrollee, you can choose to view your standing among other walk enrollees. After that is a stats page. This is a work in progress, but here we've got a couple of charts that will fill with the number of reports for each, the number of forecasts for each day of the challenge, broken down by type. and also below that, the number of reports for each day of the challenge, broken down also by type. We will also be populating some of the various other statistics that you guys are used to seeing from the previous years on this page as well. After that are just a number of useful links that may be useful to you in crafting your forecast and writing your discussion. And after that, rules and the FAQ. I guess I'll take any questions at this time, if there are any. And I'd also like to mention that due to the overhaul of the website, we have been experiencing some issues and reports of issues on outdated browsers. I can show you here is version 52 of Firefox. Does not populate either the username, the date drop-down, or does it show the map. That is something we will not be able to fix. We would recommend upgrading your browser to the latest version, or if you're using Firefox, at the very least, version 60 or greater, and I will add this information to the website as well. Are there any questions regarding any of this?
Yes, I have a question. This is Dennis at Blacksburg. Under the standing section,
okay.
It could be that could be a browser issue, could be something you're still working on, but I know in the past you could click on an individual's name and be able to see a bar graph of a weekly progress of the person, and I know for the practice week that was not appearing for me. Just didn't know if that was a function this year or maybe it's a browser issue. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that is functionality I have yet to add, but I will get working on that. Yeah, we'll get that back up and running.
All right, thank you. Just checking.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can grab control again. All right, so just one note. Matt, can you see my screen, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. So just one note that we didn't mention is in order to view this site, you'll need to use your NOAA LDAP. So that's just your NOAA email address without the @noaa.gov and then your email password. So just remember that. That's how you'll log in. Sometimes people get confused and try and use their Forecast Challenge username, but that's not the case. The username to get to the site is just your NOAA LDAP. So remember that. That was just one last thing. We do have a Facebook page. It's just do a search for WVTD Severe Weather Forecast Challenge. We're working on getting a VLAB page together where we can kind of make announcements available for those of you not on Facebook. We have Twitter, but Steve Mullins ran that, and he has since moved on, so we do not have a Twitter address at this point. So we're just sticking Facebook, and we'll work on the VLAB. And then we're always available via email, myself, Kevin Grempler, and then Matt Sinkowitz. So feel free to email us at any time if you have questions or if you note functionality issues or anything like that. So that's all we really have. Do you guys have any questions about anything at all related to the challenge, scoring, website, anything that you've noticed is missing, anything at all? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, that's all we have. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. We look forward to your participation and hope you find it a valuable learning experience and a fun one as well. So thanks for your time, everybody.